Picture a line of people wrapped around a marble bank in the cold. They want their money, and they are terrified it is already gone. There is no government coming to save them, no central bank. The only lender of last resort in the entire country is one 70-year-old man sitting in his private library across town, and he has just locked the doors. To understand the mess we might be walking into right now, you have to understand the night he held the whole system together with his bare hands. The damage was almost hard to believe. The interest rate to borrow cash overnight on Wall Street did not tick up a few points. It exploded, from around 9% to 70%, and then to 100% in a single week. At times, there was no money to lend at any price. The stock market was cut nearly in half, and output across the country would fall about 12%, more than twice as deep as the crash of 2008. So how does an entire financial system just seize up? The answer was hiding inside a boring-sounding thing called a trust. Meet the trust company. Officially, they were sober places to manage rich people's estates. In reality, they had quietly become aggressive lenders, the shadow banks of their day. And here is the crack in the system. A national bank had to keep 25 cents of cash for every dollar of deposits. A trust kept about 5. They took bigger risks with far less cushion, and they sat outside the emergency safety net the real banks shared. As long as everyone stayed calm, it worked. In October 1907, everyone stopped being calm. It started with a reckless bet, a scheme to corner the stock of a copper company. When it collapsed, people realized the men behind it were tangled up with one of the biggest trusts in New York, the Knickerbocker. A major bank cut the Knickerbocker off, and the depositors did the math. In about 3 hours, they yanked $8 million out the doors, and just after noon, the Knickerbocker stopped paying. But panic does not stop at one building. It jumped straight to the second largest trust in the city, where $13 million vanished in a single day. The dominoes were falling. This is where the old man comes in. With no Federal Reserve to call, the bankers went to J.P. Morgan. He turned his library into an emergency room for the financial system. Young analysts pored over the trust's books through the night, sorting the ones that could be saved from the ones that could not. The Knickerbocker was already gone. But the second trust, that one, they decided, would live. Morgan gathered the other trust presidents, and the story goes that he kept them there until, near 4:45 in the morning, they signed on to a $25 million rescue fund. One man deciding who survived. And the year was 1907. Here is the twist that makes it matter. A country so rattled that one private banker had to personally catch it, decided never to be that fragile again. The panic lit the fuse. First a stopgap law. Then, in 1910, 6 men slipped off to a private island disguised as a duck hunting trip to secretly draft a plan. 3 years later, in 1913, that plan became the Federal Reserve, the public lender of last resort we still have today. The fire department, built after the fire. Now here is why I brought you all the way back here, because the shape is showing up again. Sitting beside the regular banking system today is a $3.5 trillion world called private credit. Big, lightly regulated lenders, harder to sell out of, growing fast. And this July, the warning lights came on. Of the 53 publicly traded credit funds, 28 are now losing money, more than double a year ago. As a group, they flipped from profit to loss. And an index that tracks them is down over 8% this year, while the stock market is up 9%. Now, I am not ringing the 1907 alarm bell, and I want to be straight with you about why. Yes, the stress signals are real. These lenders are increasingly being paid in more IOUs instead of cash, and their hidden borrowing is climbing. But this is not 1907. These funds are actually regulated. They do less of the dangerous money juggling the old trusts did. And most importantly, this time, the fire department already exists. The parallel is not a prophecy. It is a pattern worth respecting. So think back to that locked library door. In 1907, the entire safety net was one stubborn man's willpower, and the crisis was so frightening that we spent the next 6 years building something better. We got our fire department. The only honest question left is the uncomfortable one. We built it to fight the last fire, and the next one might be starting somewhere the hoses were never laid.